Started?
Go ahead.
There we go. Okay. So hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us tonight for our fourth candidate forum in this 2022 election cycle. We are Secular AZ, and Secular AZ is a 501c3 organization focused on protecting the Constitution and the separation of church and state in Arizona for over a decade. I am excited to be hosting our fourth in a series of candidate forums for school board candidates in Arizona. We decided to begin hosting this type of event because our members care about the growing threat of white Christian nationalism in our state and country. And we're seeing how this political ideology is threatening our local school boards. And our local school boards truly are the heart of our democracy. I know we have a lot of newcomers here, and if our mission is something that you care deeply about, we ask you to consider becoming a member of our organization, perhaps even becoming a monthly donor or volunteering for our various events throughout the state. Or better yet, you could do all three. We can also guide you through the Request to Speak app that the Arizona State Legislature provides for constituents so that you can engage with your elected officials at the legislative level when you sign up for our action alerts. So tonight, we will be speaking with candidates for the Washington Elementary School Board. According to public records, there are 4 candidates running for 2 seats in WESD. I want to acknowledge that the other candidate running in WESD, Bill Adams, had another engagement and was unable to attend. So that leaves us with 3 candidates who will be joining our forum tonight. We have Kyle Clayton, Tamilia Velasquez, and T. Lambert who are joining us tonight. And in a moment, I will let them introduce themselves. But first, I just want to explain the format. We will go in alphabetical order for introductions, and candidates will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Lindsay who is our development director and really somebody who is fantastic at her job, will let us know when their time is up, and then we'll be able to move to the questions, where the next candidate in alphabetical order will have 2 minutes, and then lather, rinse, repeat. We'll repeat this format, and I'd say around 7:05 or 7:10, we will ask audience questions. So please, if you have any questions for the candidates, go ahead and write these questions into the Q&A. So going off of alphabetical order, I am going to go ahead and start with Kyle. Welcome, Kyle. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Jeannie Castine, for hosting this discussion, and Secular AZ for having me. My name is Kyle Clayton, and I'm a parent, not a politician, and I'm running for Washington Elementary School District Governing Board. As a native of Arizona, I've been educated in the public school system from kindergarten all the way to college at ASU. I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish and an international business certification from the W.P. Carey School of Business. Most importantly, I know what it's like to be a student in our Arizona educational system. I also know what it's like to be a parent of a WESD student because my son attends school in this district. That is a big reason why I'm running, is because of my son Tate and his first grade experience. His elementary school experience was so much different from mine. He had multiple teachers in 1 year. There were barely any extracurricular activities, and the environment seemed sad. I feel like our schools are left on their own to do whatever they can for their students. That results in different levels of support and opportunity, campus by campus, and that's not fair. I want to make sure all of our kids have amazing memories and learn so much in elementary school. I am also running because of my high school guidance counselor, Jen Goldman. I never planned to run for elected office, but Jen tagged me in a Facebook post about the WESD governing board vacancy. Jen's support encouraged me to run because she pointed out to me, I have what it takes to do this. That's the power of teachers. When we allow them to do what they do best, they can change the lives of their students. As a board member, I would bring a desire to make things better for all kids, a desire to nurture strong teacher, student, family relationships, a willingness to listen and learn, and the courage to speak up and ask questions. I have always been an entrepreneur running successful businesses, so I know how to maximize budgets. As a real estate agent, I understand contract law, and I am also a connector, and I would use that to leverage and encourage a collaborative approach to solve problems in our schools. My husband and I have been married for 15 years and lived in the district for 12. 2 years ago, we were lucky enough to adopt our son, Tate. Like I said, I'm a parent and not a politician. I'm running not just for families like mine, but for all families, particularly those often left out of the conversation. I ask everyone to visit KyleForArizona.com to learn more about me and to ask any questions. Thank you.
Sorry about that. And you can see too in the chat that Lindsay is putting in the 10 seconds, and I will do a much better job of making sure that I kind of give you that clue so that you know how much time you have. So great, coming right in under time. And that will take us to T. Lambert next. Go ahead, T, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm T. Lambert, and I am currently on the governing board, and I have had a very deep and long history as a community activist for over 30 years. I was appointed, I have worked on an ad hoc committee for the Phoenix City Council when they were developing recommendations on employee retirement plans. I have served on legislative education committees to address consolidation of schools. I've been very active in my community and in my school district. I've been on committees since 1989, including our PTAs. My children went to Richard E. Miller and to Royal Palm, been on site councils, the district planning and steering committee, facilities and budget councils. As a WESD citizen advisory committee member, I was on that for about 5 years. I've co-chaired many different community presentations on Baffled by the Budget to help people understand how limited it is in using our public tax dollars and what we can and cannot do. And it's just to help promote community awareness in public school funding. I was a member of the Community Leadership Committee back in 2009. I've joined Arizona Citizens for the Arts, working for arts education. And I've also been on the executive board of Support Our Schools Arizona, which existed before the current Support Our Schools, as a public education advocacy from 2010 to 2017. I worked at the Department of Ed as a Title I monitoring coordinator in the highly effective school divisions for over 14 years. I understand the use of federal dollars and how that blends with our schools and what the goals are in using those dollars. I'm currently working in Paradise Valley Unified School District as a Title I technician and helping them write their plans. I'm a very proud parent of 4 children, all of them who've attended our WESD schools. I bring a wealth of experience in working on behalf of Arizona Public Schools and being an advocate for our students, our families, our staff. And I'm just committed to the WESD being a district that families are proud to call their own, providing quality academics, art, musical, physical education, and supporting our students' social and emotional needs. I also believe that we may have a universal problem, but the solutions are community-based. We have 32 schools across 45 square miles with 20,000 students, 60 different languages. And the challenges each school faces, it's different than another school.
I appreciate your introduction, but that is time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I need a bell.
We'll have to get that for the next one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. No problem. All right. Next, we have Tamilia Valenzuela. So Tamilia, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, y'all. My name is Tamilia Valenzuela. and I am running for governing board for Washington Elementary School District. I am running because I am also a parent, and I am disheartened by what I see in this school district. This is a school district that has over 80% students of color, and yet there is absolutely no representation from our communities in this fashion. That is disheartening because we need cultural competency in our schools to understand where our communities are coming from and to understand the unique problems that do impact our community when it comes to school policies such as SROs and how they impact our school. I think it's time that we have fresh ideas and new perspectives in elected spaces, especially educational spaces. While I am new to this district, my family has lived in the West Valley. We're very passionate and very involved with our child's education. And I want to work towards making sure community engagement is actually there. A lot of times the people who are closest to the issues are often left out of the conversations and the discussions that happen when it comes to policy that is being made and that impacts our community directly. When we moved into this district, we looked at the different schools. There are 32 different schools in the Washington Elementary School District. And as I stated, the representation among the staff, among the board, for students of color, for communities of color, just is not there. And that's not okay, because that means that our district does not represent the community, is not representative of the community that they're coming from. And that does need to change. Like I said, I'm just a parent who is really passionate about the things that impact our youth, because our youth truly are not just the future, they're the leaders of today. I would really love to see youth voices at the board level, because like I said, those that are closest to the issues, their voices should be amplified, not just people speaking on their behalf, but actually uplifting their voices and holding space for that engagement. I would like to see more community engagement from our families, from our educators, also from our youth. That way we can really make policies that are not just going to make changes, but actually be sustainable and actually be what our community needs. And so that's why I'm running for Washington Elementary School Board, and I hope y'all have a fun time here.
Great, thank you so much. All right, well, let's just jump right into it. So I feel like I heard a lot of you say why you wanted to run. So I don't want to be redundant with my questions. Again, I want to invite the audience to please feel free to put any questions that you have in the Q&A in the chat so that we can get to those a little bit later in the program. So since we started with Kyle today, that means this next question is going to go to T. Lambert. So T, what programming and policies do you hope to bring to the district? And I realize you've been on the board, but what would you like to, what's your next phase? What would you like to bring to the district?
Well, right now we're currently working on the discussion of this district's strategic plan, focused on equitable education outcomes for all, and to be able to ensure our schools are a safe place for learning, and to help meeting our students' needs, which really is indicative to a lot to our poverty level, because we are an inner city school in a city that is service-based industry. The pandemic taught us a lot. We ended up handing out thousands of computers as well as hotspots so kids could learn when we were virtual, and fed them in our community. So it really was in a learning process of really how in depth our students and families need the support. And that's what we're currently working on, and I hope to continue working on as we move forward.
Great, thank you for that. All right, the same question. So what programming and policies, this one goes to Tamilia. what programming and policies do you hope to bring to the district in your service on the board?
I would really like to see policy that directly is in concerns with equity, a policy that has teeth and that really addresses the problems and doesn't just use a blanket statement, and has an actual understanding of what equity is when it comes to our communities, understanding that different identities do really truly play a role in the way our educational spaces fill for our youth, whether it be a socioeconomic identity, disability, racial. I think it's really time that we really hone in and have brave and courageous conversations about what the issues are. And so I would really like to see an equitable policy come out that really has teeth, that really addresses the issues that need to be addressed with really bold and courageous language. I would like to see a space where our students feel inspired, and where some schools have programs and not to where some schools have programs and others do not. That does not make for an equitable experience within our district, and that's what I would like to see.
Great, thank you so much. So same question to you, Kyle. What kind of programming or policies would you like to bring to the district?
Like I said, I am a connector. And so I would like to bring and champion strategic partnerships with nonprofits that operate in Arizona to bring resources to our schools and to help solve problems like bullying, which my son experienced. I would also like to be a champion for school social workers so that our district can have one dedicated social worker per campus. Like I said, I am drawing on this as a parent, and my son had a hard time in dealing with a bully, and there was not a social worker there to help them because she covers 2 campuses. I also would want to focus on teacher retention and look at that culture and climate survey more in depth to hone in on our 0 to 4-year teachers, to keep them in our district, to build the loyalty with them, make sure they are utilizing our bridge, start, and educational coaches to really make sure that they are dedicated and see the value of WESD and stay for the long term. Other than that, I would like to kind of level the playing field. My son's, like I said, school didn't have sports and didn't have music. And I would like all of our campuses to be offering those resources to all of our students.
Sorry about that tiny little delay there. And thank you all for your answers. I appreciate it. So we started with T last time. That means that this next question will go to Tamilia. And you know, this one today for me is one that is actually probably about to be discussed at the legislative level. So the next question that I have for all of you is, do you support programming that includes comprehensive sex ed? And why or why not? So Tamilia, you're going to go ahead and go first on that one.
I think in order to have a well-rounded education, absolutely, there is no question about it. We need to know what is going on with our bodies, and so do our students. Sometimes they may not get that education at home. I went to school for social work, and one of the things that I was taught was that a lot of times young children are given language for their body parts that are very childish, very like silly names, like pocketbooks or something like that. And having language to express when something has happened to them or when something doesn't feel right in a certain part of their body is so important, because then it's just not passed off as, oh, you're just talking about something like a toy or something like that. When children are given language to express what's going on with themselves, they're empowered. And when they're empowered, they're able to function better. They're able to do more. I think that comprehensive sex education should be a given. I think we need to stop the narrative that we are teaching children inappropriate things with comprehensive sex ed. I want to see our children thrive, not just survive. And that comes with comprehensive sex education, by knowing how their bodies work, by knowing that their identities are not something weird or strange or something that they're alone in. It provides that understanding. And as people in the educational space, we know that knowledge is power. So why would we not want to empower our children in our community with that knowledge by having comprehensive sex education? We talk about as adults that if you have your health, then you have everything. And so having your health is knowing what's going on with your body. So absolutely, I think comprehensive sex education should be there.
Thank you so much for that answer. And that will take us to the top of the alphabet again. Kyle, same question to you. Do you think that students should have access to comprehensive sex ed, and why or why not?
Yes, I do believe that students should have access and education about sexual education in a comprehensive way. As a student, I did not receive sex education at my school or at home. And we should make sure that our families know what the comprehensive sex education is. And we should be teaching it to our students in a way where parents know what's going on, but the education is there, whether they get it additional sex education at home. But I believe schools are places to learn, and sex education is a very important topic. We don't want our students turning to the internet. I mean, when I was growing up, the internet was just coming out. So I can only imagine the access to information that kids have. And we need to make sure that they have they have correct information from trusted sources like our schools and our families.
Great, thank you so much. All right, same question goes to you, T. Do you think that, and I want to make sure I get the wording right again, do you support programming that includes comprehensive sex ed, and why or why not?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, with comprehensive sex education being a K-8, which is different than a high school, there's always a discussion of age appropriate. There's a discussion of being parents need to know, because this is a topic that they will choose to participate in or not. And so it's important that they have that information and they do that. I am not against children learning about their body maturation and what is going on. Sex ed is a strange, all-encompassing word, because people get hung up on the act of sex instead of learning about the different sexes, if that makes sense. And so there's got to be a lot of education to parents as well, available to the students and to the staff, who are also very hesitant about having these kinds of one-on-one personal discussions. Doesn't mean it shouldn't happen, but and I would support something that came up from the schools and support the community being involved in developing that. Legislature, I know, is already writing statutes and laws surrounding what we can and cannot talk about, and when we can and cannot talk about it with our students. And so we have to be conscious of being able to meet the letter of the law. That's the one big part about being a governing board member, is we can have great ideas and great direction, but we still have to be in compliance with the law. So I do support good common sense. I guess it would be sex education. I don't have another term for it. So, but I would like to see it be involved with body maturation and what is going, because the language is important, as Tamilia said.
Great. Thank you so much. And, I'm going to go ahead and skip around on the questions that I have because you did bring up the legislature and how quite often as school board members, we have to follow the laws that are put forth by the legislature. And most of our members know that this legislative session has been a doozy. In fact, they are still in Senate appropriations. And I have a feeling they're probably going to be calling folks both in the House and the Senate back to the floor today. So given the fact that we are now 8 days away from needing to pass a budget, otherwise we have a Arizona state government shutdown. Let's talk a little bit about the legislature. So this past legislative session, we have seen a number of education and school focused bills, some of them already being signed into law, with many others right now as we speak, waiting in the wings. So let's see, we started with Tamilia, the last time. That means that we are going to start with Kyle, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. So my question to you, Kyle, is which bill during this 2022 legislative session gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a school board member?
The bill that gives me the most concern is actually being talked about today, HB 2853 and 2854. Arizona voters have voted overwhelmingly to not allow vouchers and not universal vouchers. Not only that, they support with Prop 208 funding of public schools and public education. I just, as a principal, think it's fiscally irresponsible to funnel taxpayer money to a for-profit corporation that has no accountability like our public schools do. Our public schools are hubs of our community, and that's how they should be. As a governing board member, I will be, like I was today, down at the state legislature, talking to my representatives, talking to other representatives, and just making my voice heard as a parent, as a school board member, as a citizen, as a voter. I believe we need to stand up and fight for our public schools, public education, and that's what I'm going to do if I'm lucky enough to become a school board member.
Great, thank you so much. So same question now, we'll go to T. Lambert. T, same question. Which bill this legislative session gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member?
I guess what really concerned me the most is not a specific bill, but it was the lack of financial support. With the vouchers, they've already been here. I agree with Kyle in talking about how it shouldn't be happening. There's no accountability. That's easily remedied, is that private schools who receive dollars, state dollars, that they also have to meet the compliance of the laws. They have to participate in the state assessment and be able to prove that they're using the dollars as wisely as they expect us to be using the dollars. I don't know that we're ever going to unring that bell. It's there, but we could help work on shaping it and bringing more accountability to the vouchers. I really was hoping that we could get an increase in funding to balance out for a poverty rate, for special ed, to be able to do more. Also, it kind of concerns me if they keep opening up the door. We're having a hard time finding staff as it is. Across the nation, teachers are leaving in droves, and I don't blame them. It's because socially and nationally, they're not respected. It's hard to inspire and encourage teachers to come in when they're being blamed for everything. Even to the porn meme about, we don't trust you to not teach CRT, but will you carry a gun and protect my child in the classroom? So it's those kind of things worry me, is that we need the funding to attract and retain our teachers. We need to build teachers programs so that we can get folks of color to want to go into teaching, there's not a lot there. Okay. And that we need to just focus on that. And that's what I do.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, at one point, somebody I think referred to teachers as educational terrorists this legislative session. So we're living in a very strange timeline, like I said. Okay, so the same question will go to Tamilia Valenzuela. What bill gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member?
I think there were two bills that gave me, that were really frightening to me. There's actually been a lot more than that, but on this topic, funding, obviously, as both T and Kyle said, we're in inflation. Like, we're paying people who are really cornerstone pillars to our children, unlivable wages, and that's not right. The stress of not having a livable wage can be really impactful, and not just for our teachers, but for our families. You know, I'll even say that for my family, funding has really impacted. I have a child who has a 504. And with him having a 504, when that funding is cut, you know, there goes like support systems that he needs for his education. Larger class sizes happen because we're unable to keep teachers, and understandably so. You want a job that's, you don't have to stress out and work 3 different jobs. So I think our elected officials really need to get their act together and do something. And the other one that also really bothered me is the attack on LGBT youth. I am a queer woman myself. And so hearing adults literally bully children over their identity is heartbreaking. And not only that, I've said before, I want to see our children not just survive, I want to see them thrive. And that's really hard to do when the people who are supposed to be the leaders in our community and doing what's best for the people that they serve have very literally stated that they don't want to serve you and don't agree with who you are, as if that is an argumentable thing to have a discussion about. If you know anything about statistics, you know that even having one person in your life as an LGBT youth can dramatically decrease your chances of suicide. And when we have these discussions happening in this fashion, in this manner, we are causing detrimental harm to our students, to our youth, to our community. And it is so much easier and better as a human being to build someone up than to tear them down, and then when they're in their 30s have to go through therapy because they feel like they shouldn't exist. And so those are the two bills that really impacted me this year in this realm, and I hope we can vote them out that way. Yeah.
All right, time. Thank you so much. No, all of you, thank you for your thoughtful answers. I appreciate it. All right. So we are, again, an organization, a nonprofit 501c3 that is focused on the separation of church and state. And this is a question that I know is important to our members. So what role, if any, should religion play in public schools? And let's see, I believe we're going to be starting with T this time. So T, what role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
I don't know that there should be a role as much as an understanding. And if you are going to advise and educate about one single brand of religion, we need to do all. We need to be able to separate that and be able to focus on our kiddos and their families, but not get involved into to the aspects of religion, because we end up where we are now. We end up with strong religious advocates pushing their paradigm on what is right and what is wrong, to a point that DC just signed into bill, and I guess it'll be 90 days after sine die, a policy on parental rights. And the parental rights is really very rigid in what he has done with it, to the fact that we can't even survey our students without getting parents' approval to find out what's going on, what our kids are thinking. And this all stems from one religious segment that is very, very strong and adamant about what can and cannot be done in schools. So as far as at the schools, if we're going to talk about religion, then we talk about all, and we talk about it being part of our students' ancestry. Is not what is the right word, but it's their background. So you don't want to dismiss it, but you need to learn to embrace all.
Great. Thank you so much. And that means we'll be going to Tamilia. Same question to you. What role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
Thank you for that question. I actually agree with T. I don't think it plays a role in the fact that it should not dictate policy, and it should not dictate the environment. But I do think it is important to have an understanding of each other as a community, especially with the fact that Washington is such a diverse community, right? Just driving around, like, you see different faiths, holy spaces. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you see the spaces that people go to worship, and there's so many different cultural spaces that it is important to understand it, like, our world is not just one specific faith or one specific religion. And we do need to have an understanding. We need to have an understanding and hold space for those celebrations, for that cultural aspect that comes with being that different faith. But as far as dictating policy and what should and should not happen within schools, I definitely don't believe that faith should dictate that. And I don't think there's any room where you can speak about equity and allow that to happen at the same time. There's just so many aspects, so many different faiths, like, you just can't do that. And so in being accepting and a space for all of our community, we need to make sure that there is that separation and that it doesn't dictate our policy.
Great. Thank you so much, Tamilia. Kyle, same question to you. What role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
I strongly believe in the separation of church and state that was written into our Constitution, and we should uphold that. I think religion is very personal and should be a personal journey that you go on with your family, with your loved ones, and those you can trust. I do think that religion does hold a cultural aspect, so we should hold space and allow for our students of different religions to be able to see their religion in a school calendar, or times off where they're not missing school or missing critical educational moments, because they also want to exercise our religion. I have a huge respect for the exercise of religion. I just don't think that it belongs in public schools.
Sorry once again for my delay, because I'm sometimes kind of terrible at keeping track of who who needs to go next. And I'm sorry I don't have my video on either. I believe this one is going to go to T then.
No, I started the last one.
You started the last. See, this is what I'm saying. All right, so this next question then is going to go to Tamilia. So Tamilia, what approach should schools and districts have with regards to student discipline? So I'll say that again, just to make sure everybody heard it. What approach should schools and districts have with regards to student discipline?
I think that needs to be reimagined. I think there are so many different factors that can really play into what discipline looks like, but I think we need to move away from it being punitive. We need to look at the whole child, and that goes back to kind of what Kyle's point was of needing more counselors. Why we have SROs in schools is absolutely beyond me, especially just period. To have an armed person who could potentially come in contact with our youth, to punish them is very harmful. When we look at how discipline is applied across the board, Black and Brown children are disciplined for normal child behavior. They're more likely to be suspended. They are more likely to miss out on school. They are more likely to be reprimanded than their white counterparts. And that's just the reality of it. I really think we need to look at more healing in our educational spaces. We need to have more counselors because a lot of the things that we do as a society when it comes to punishment and discipline is just a Band-Aid. It doesn't address the root issue. It doesn't address the child and what their needs are. So I think we need to look at it as a more holistic plan rather than a punitive one.
Thank you, Tamilia. So that means the same question is going to go to Kyle. And I want to make sure the wording is right for all of you. So what approach should schools and districts have with regards to student discipline?
For student discipline, we should really be focused and aware of what our policies do to student outcomes. We know that when students are not only disciplined, but disciplined with an out-of-school suspension, that can affect their learning for many years to come. And all of our discipline policy should be focused on making sure that it is not adversely affecting the outcomes of our students, because the out-of-school suspensions can really affect a child. It can also send them back into a space that is unsafe. I dealt with that with my son this year. There was not a social worker to help with, it wasn't a discipline problem, but the child was disciplined for bullying my son and sent back home on some of the funnest days of the year, like field day, into a potentially unsafe home environment. And that can have devastating effects on the outcome of their education. So I believe it needs to be social worker focused and cognizant and very focused on the effects of educational outcomes as they move on through elementary school and into middle school and high school.
Great, thank you so much. T, same question to you. What approach should schools and districts have with regards to student discipline?
Well, we are currently, and it's going through the schools. We have many schools that do PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Services. So if a child is struggling, and we all know that when we all struggle, we act out to divert attention from our struggles, there is that conversation. And to find out the why of what is happening and what is going on, and working with the parents and the students and the teacher on how to resolve this, how best to get everybody to understand their part in being able to have a safe place to learn and to be able to continue on in their schools. One thing I've been disappointed in the past, shall I say 6 years, is how negative people are. We make judgment calls on our own self-esteem based on what somebody else is or does. And so that creates problems with bullying and things like that. And to punish a bully can if there's not a message, as Tamilia said, to learn from, how to behave differently, what would have worked better to accomplish what you wanted to do, can be very hazardous to our students and what they're learning. So I'd like to continue to create that environment to have our work. Our SROs are not involved in disciplines. They are building relationships with students. So that's a different aspect of how we use SROs in the district. And social workers, we grab them when we can. And we've been trying hard through grants to be able to pull those in and be able to support our schools.
Great, thank you so much. See, I didn't even have to put up my hands that time. Excellent. Since I'm gonna shift actually, and I used to do improv back in the day, so I'm gonna improv a little bit because I heard the mention of SROs, and sadly, we all saw the events that took place last month in Uvalde, Texas. So I'm curious for all of you, do we need to have SROs in our schools? That's the first part of the question. Do SROs have a place in our schools? Yes or no? And if yes, why? And if no, what else should we have in our schools? And so this time, Kyle, I believe, goes first. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I will go. So I really want to be sensitive about this because I am both my parents, my mom and dad, Victoria Police and Glendale Police Department. My dad was a homicide detective for most of my life. So I have experience with law enforcement and I respect that line of work. However, I don't know if SROs belong on campus because we have not seen data to back up what in the contract it says they are there to do. However, I do know that our schools need a comprehensive safety evaluation, and we should be investing in ways that infrastructure that protects our students. And I forgot the second part of that question.
The question was, do they belong in schools? And if they do, explain why. If they don't, what do we need in place of them?
Okay, so I did answer it. I believe we need the data on SROs to see if they are doing what they are contractually stated to do, and really keeping a focus of they aren't social workers, they're not trained social workers, they aren't, we should not be asking them to do the work of social workers. But we definitely, as a district as a whole, need to have a comprehensive safety evaluation and plan to improve the infrastructure of each of our schools to be safer.
Great. Okay, so that will take it to T, SROs. Do we need to have SROs in our school, yes or no? If yes, why? If no, what do we have instead?
Well, yes is my answer to that. And helping build relationships. SROs are not, they do not get involved in discipline. It's built on mentoring. It's built on building relationships with students, so they don't always see them out on the streets or in a dangerous situation, where they understand and can help build understanding between the police and our communities. And our SROs participate in after school activities, get to know the kids. They also will sit down and with their schools and look at issues that have been discipline issues in the school. And say, for instance, there's one on vaping, it's been increased. Then the SRO goes to the classes and helps provide information on vaping. They teach the kids their rights within the law and what they can and cannot do. They go out and play basketball with the kids. It's been a positive. The only time they get involved in any law enforcement activity is if there was a situation we would have had to call the police. And sometimes some of the guardians that can come on campus can be problematic. And so where we would have to call the police to help support the schools, we have our SRO officers there to handle it. So they are good and bad. It's hard to measure. That's one thing we have found nationally. It's hard to measure something that they don't actually produce a product to. Building relationships, how do you measure that? How do you know that's going on? So that's very hard to do, but they have been very beneficial. Our schools have really appreciated them. I know there are a few that have trouble with them, but we always have that problem. Also, we have people who complain about social workers. So we just need to be sure we build a safe environment, and that includes SROs now.
Great. Thank you so much. So that means, Tamilia, the same question goes to you. And should SROs be on our campuses, yes or no? And if so, why? If no, then why not?
My answer is going to be unapologetically no. When you look at policing as a whole, it is a violent institution. It is an oppressive institution. If the police officers want to build community, they should probably stop murdering people, especially unarmed people. The school to prison pipeline is a very real thing, and it impacts Black and brown students at a much higher level. And as a child, why would I feel safe around someone who has been known to harass my community, that is armed? I am also involved in a lot of community organizations, and the stories of impact, because while intentions are great and all, we must prioritize impact over intentions. Police have had a detrimental impact to communities like mine. Communities like mine will not call the cops because it does not make us feel safer. It can exacerbate an already bad situation. I listened in the last board meeting, I believe it was, where it stated that about 15 to 20% of our students stated that they did not feel safe around SROs. In a school district as large as Washington Elementary, even one child saying they don't feel safe around an SRO is one child too many, because that can detrimentally impact the way that child moves in that educational space. I do not believe that SROs should be, if they're there for mentoring or for positive impact, there's plenty of community organizations around the Valley that do the same work that don't have that negative connotation associated with them. And I think it would be really beneficial to take a look at that, but no, absolutely not.
Sorry about that. I missed the time just a little bit, so I apologize. Again, it's funny because my maiden name is Simons, and so right now I'm trying to channel my Ted Simons from PBS Horizon and be fair to everybody. So I apologize. I was looking at my notes, and so I appreciate all of your answers. This next question is going to go to T. That part I did keep track of. So my question to you, T, is what role should standardized testing play in driving school programming and policies? So I'll say it again, and we'll start with T. What role should standardized testing play in driving school programming and policies? T, whenever you're ready.
Oh, T, you're muted.
Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. That's okay. That's okay.
A whole lot smoother if you don't hear me. I think in the reality of today, with standardized testing going on and being the benchmark of everything that goes on with the state and at the national level, as far as evaluating schools and providing funding, it's a reality we live in. So it should be an outcome that the districts can build curriculum and pacing guides to help meet that. So the students will be able to go towards that. Now, if I was queen for the day or maybe a whole year, I don't believe standardized testing should be around at all. I think that we should be able to teach a concept and be able to do that and assess it and be able to measure growth and for students. Right now, in my humble opinion, after being at the Department of Ed for so long, that standardized testing is a tool used and developed to downcast public schools and to hamper their productivity. So, but it's a reality that we have to use it as a guide of what our outcome of how our students are being judged, because that will carry them through forward as they go along. But I'd rather not.
Great, thank you so much, T. So after T, then Tamilia, same question to you. What role should standardized testing play in driving school programming and policies?
Unfortunately, like T said, it is a reality. However, I don't feel like it should play a driving role. I think with our educators, we should trust them to know that the benchmarks that they give in their classrooms should be able to drive the student outcomes. I also think standardized testing is very ableist. Let's just be honest, it's not an equitable measuring tool. Education is not a one-size-fits-all thing, and to expect all of our students across the board to be able to do the information the way standardized testing gives them a way to do it is not acknowledging the differences in the uniqueness that our students have. It doesn't acknowledge the fact that our students learn in different ways, and sometimes the standardized tests may not meet the way that they learn. And so I think it's another example of learning the difference between equality and equity, and it's definitely not an equitable thing. It may produce equality, but it's just not equitable. It's ableist, and it doesn't measure what our students really can do and allow them to shine. And I think it also causes unnecessary stress. It causes unnecessary stress because our students and our educators feel that if they don't meet the standards that are placed in front of them, then it can just cause a lot of anxiety. And I think that's wrong. And I think it honestly should be done away with.
Great, thank you so much for that answer. So Kyle, same question to you. What role should standardized testing play in driving school programming and policies?
I agree with what both T and Tamilia have said about this topic. Testing seems to have taken over our schools, and I believe if it should be equal, if standardized testing is so important for public schools, it should be just as important for private and charter schools to do the same testing and have the same outcomes. It is so hard. I grew up in Arizona public schools before the Ames test and before the standardized testing really became so rigid, and had a great education. And that to me goes back to our trust in teachers. When we allow them to do what they do best, our children, we saw in COVID, the individualization that our teachers were able to create for students virtually, in person. When we trust them, they can do what they do best. And I agree, it's a reality we have to live with in Arizona and with our students. With my son, it just felt like testing is the only thing we're focused on, and we're not focused on the learning that music provides, that team sports provide, that art provides. Education isn't all just about passing a test. It should be holistic and varied for all of our students to thrive and flourish within the school environment.
Great, thank you so much. And we're about to open it up. I do have one question in our Q&A coming from the audience, but I have one last question of my own. And so this one is going to go to Tamilia. Gosh, I hope I got that right. Like I said, I'm really bad. I need a better system. If you do not win a seat on the Washington Elementary School Board, how do you plan to remain involved in the goings on of the Washington Elementary School District? So I'll say it again, and this one's going to go to Tamilia first. If you do not win a seat on the governing board, how do you plan to remain involved in the goings on and the board business that takes place every day, every week, every month?
Well, like I said, I do a lot of things around the community. And so my life is literally community work. I love volunteering. And in any way that I can help to further hold space for our families and get them engaged in understanding the educational space and learning the power that they already hold as a community member. I will continue to do that. I will make sure to watch the board meetings, of course, because you can't know what's going on if you're not watching the board meetings. But just really holding space for my community to understand the power that they have, learning how to navigate the educational space because it is so confusing, even as a person who I like to consider is pretty involved in spaces like this. But really just holding space for my community to hold its power and know that they have a right to be in these spaces and a right to voice their concerns with how the education of our youth is going in Washington Elementary School District.
Great, thank you so much, Tamilia. That will take us to Kyle. Kyle, same question for you. If you do not win a seat on the governing board, how do you plan to remain involved in the goings on of the district?
Well, as a parent with a student in attending school in the district, I will continue to be an involved parent, to be involved in helping improve my son's school, the schools throughout our district. I'll probably start up a PTO because my son's school does not have one and hasn't been able to keep one. And like I said, I will continue to be an involved parent and an involved citizen by continuing to go down to the legislature and advocate for public schools, to continue to watch and attend the governing board meetings in person or virtually, to make sure I understand and know what's going on, can communicate that to other parents within the district, and can let my voice be heard when it needs to. And so I will continue to be an involved parent and continue to keep trying to help make WESD the best district it can be.
Great, thank you, Kyle. T, same question to you, and I'll read it again. If you don't win a seat on the governing board, how do you plan to remain involved in the goings on of the district?
Well, in all my years of advocacy, I haven't always been on the board, but I will continue. I'm a firm believer that when we have healthy and successful schools, we have healthy and successful neighborhoods. So working for the community is involved in the school district. And I will, if I do not win, then I will participate on any committees that are available to be able to provide input and guide on it. I don't know that I'll be as great as Tamilia about watching all the board meetings after all these years, but I will just stay involved in my schools and always promote that decisions need to be made at the local level of their school community to meet all their needs. And I will advocate at the district, I will advocate that at the legislature, and I will continue to advocate with the legislature on educational items, and even at a national level.
Great, thank you so much, T. So we are at the point, actually, this is amazing. Like you've all done such a fantastic job of staying under time. We may even finish a little bit early. So in the past, we've kind of had so many questions that I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to extend this to 8 o'clock, but y'all might get an extra 15 minutes or half an hour here. So we do have one question coming from the audience, and I think this is a great question. Currently, I believe in Arizona, there are 2,800 classrooms or so without a highly qualified teacher at the front of them. My own daughter actually just graduated from ASU with a degree in education. She's moving out of state because of a lot of the issues that we've talked about today. So this is a great question coming from anonymous attendee. I don't know if that's their real name, I doubt it. And their question is, what is your plan to both recruit and retain high quality teachers? And this time we're going to go ahead and start with Kyle. So I'll state that question again. What is your plan to both recruit and retain high quality teachers?
Well, we know that teachers need to be paid a fair wage and paid more. So my plan will be to advocate at a state level to get those increases, that funding into our public schools. But we also know that teachers will love their job, love their students, love their community. And we can do things outside of the budget to improve their environment, to improve the culture of our schools, and to, like I said, focus on those 0 to 4 year teachers. Are they using our instructional coaches? Are they having effective work with that instructional coach, or are there options to change if it doesn't fit? Are they utilizing our programs like Bridge and Start, and also, are they feeling respected? We saw in our culture and climate survey that they're not feeling a connection to WESD, and we need to dig down into that and see why. It also goes back to strategic partnerships with ASU, GCU, and the other educational institutions within our state to work on bringing those well-qualified student teachers into our communities, really making sure they're a great fit for our district, and having that culture and climate that makes them want to stay, that brings that loyalty to our district, because we have great people, we have great students, and we have great schools. But it's also a reality that our state legislature is trying not to make teachers, being a teacher or an educator, a job that they want, and we need to turn that around.
Great, thank you so much. All right, that means that next we have T, and the same question goes to you. What is your plan to both recruit and retain high quality teachers?
Well, we already support our new teachers with Begin and the Bridge program, having to use some teachers that don't have a teacher certification. So we get confused between high quality, which can be subjective, to appropriately certified, which has got to do with reading and math. So there's all these contingencies, but the best way is to support our staff. If we want to keep them, not only is the money important, but having the supports in place to help them be successful. So the class size is going to be manageable. We have so many different learning styles of what they've got to do and how to learn and how to teach our kiddos. And they need the supports in place, whether that's an aide in the classroom, making sure they've got any kind of resources that they're needing, to be able to focus on that. And that way they can be successful. Nobody wants to stay in a job, no matter how much they love it, if they're not successful. That's just an emotional bridge we all carry of wanting to be successful in what we do. So my focus is to make sure they have everything they do, because anything we want to give, we have to decide what we're going to take. It's easy to say to get rid of administration or instructional coaches, but the work they do, the teachers now have to take on. So I don't want it to be, if they get a raise, I want it to be a raise in income for doing what their job is. I don't want to add extra work and then give them extra compensation for that work, because that is not a raise. You just double their load. So that is how I continue to work towards supporting our teachers.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, same question now. We'll go to Tamilia. And that question is, how do you plan to both recruit and retain high-quality teachers for Washington Elementary School District?
I would want to learn what Washington Elementary School District's hiring practices are. In a recent board meeting, it was stated that I believe the person who was talking about the numbers of spots that needed to be filled was asked about how do they attract different affinity groups, and they didn't know what an affinity group was. And hearing that that was an answer was really disheartening. I think we should be very intentional in making sure that we are going out to engage with different groups. Obviously, like T said, supporting our teachers, giving them more money for what they're already doing and not like doubling their load, because like she said, that's not a raise, that's just more stress. That we do need to pay our teachers more. They deserve that with inflation. There's just so many different things that go into that, but I think we need to be more intentional and really reevaluate the hiring practices that are currently happening, because like I stated, the representation is not there. I do not really see people that look like my family or other families in my community, like in this school district. And so I think there needs to be more intentionality when it comes to that, and reevaluating and reimagining the hiring practices that happen, because I think one of the things that can be a barrier is, as a teacher, as a person of color, as a person who has maybe some kind of disability or any other identity, when you don't see yourself in that space, why would you want to go into that space? And that has to be looked at, and that has to be talked about.
Great, thank you so much. And we do have one more question that's coming in from the chat, and I'll invite everybody who's still with us right now to go ahead, and if you do have any questions, please throw them in the chat. This question will go to, hold on, T. This one's going to go to T first. And the question is, Arizona has one of the lowest rates of employment of disabled individuals. How will you create change, especially during traditional periods, to help disabled students obtain meaningful employment? Okay, Arizona has one of the lowest rates of employment of disabled individuals. Okay, wait. Oh, okay, so there, I see there was a typo in there. That's why I was a little bit confused by the question. So the question really is, how will you create change, especially during transitional periods, to help disabled students obtain meaningful employment?
Being a K-8, I don't have the ability of the 9-12 and the high schools to be able to focus on job placement for them, but our focus with our special needs and that description is wide and varied in what our special needs are. We have the severely disabled, and then we have down to the lower cases that everybody wants a label. So to incorporate that, but hopefully in teaching our kiddos skills that they can utilize as they move forward in their education, as well into the future as an adult. So they have the ability to participate and to work with that in what we're doing. In our autistic classes, they have things that are going on Sweetwater is our school that has the most identified severely challenged children. And so trying to provide a nice, safe place, education they can grasp and utilize in the future, and help drive them towards being successful in high school when they have other exposures to jobs and programs that they can utilize there to help them in their as an adult.
Great, thank you so much, T. That means Tamilia, you're going to be next, and let me read this again for you. How will you create change, especially during transitional periods, to help disabled students obtain meaningful employment?
This is a tough question, as T said. We're K-8, not high school, but I also think this is where we can also show the power of our community and the resources that are in our community, in connecting families with organizations that do assist this particular demographic with how to get gainful employment, setting up maybe different programs to like hone in on specific interests for our students. You know, not everybody wants to be a teacher, not everybody wants to be a mechanic, but you know, how can we spark that interest and bring that joy to be like to where our children that are disabled see themselves in these fields? That kind of goes back to, you know, the testing question. Testing doesn't really give them a transition into life, because in life, I mean, you get tested in different ways, but you don't get, you know, testing is different. It doesn't allow them to have that hands-on experience to really explore their interests, to really explore what they want to do with their career. But connecting them with those organizations that do provide that support, that provide that assistance in helping that particular demographic obtain sustainable employment that works for their life, and will propel them to the success that they imagine for themselves.
Great, thank you so much, Tamilia. So that means the same question is going to go to Kyle. How will you create change, especially during transitional periods, to help disabled students obtain meaningful employment?
First, I will admit when I don't know things, and like I said, have a willingness to listen and learn. And this would be one of the topics that I do a lot of listening and learning to come up with a solution with the community to help our students that have disabilities. Again, as a K-8, it's hard to talk about meaningful employment when we are talking about a lower level education. However, I think we can also help our disabled students by hiring disabled and people who have disabilities, so that they are reflecting to our students of disabilities that they can obtain a job, they can choose a vocation if they are not going on to higher education, and they can see themselves in the community in which they're growing up in. And that can have a powerful effect on all of our students, and especially our students with disabilities. And I would look at strategic partnerships to bring in organizations and businesses that specialize in disability education and disability, and bringing those opportunities to our community, so that they see that there is what they can do and how they can thrive despite having a disability of any kind.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to just put forward a last call for any questions. I think we're going to be able to finish a little bit early tonight. So given that, I am now going to, let's see, we're going to actually start with Kyle this time. It just happened to be that way. So Kyle, I'd like for you to kind of just wrap up and give us your closing statement. I know that I had said 2 minutes, but given the fact that we do have some extra time, I'm going to go ahead and give everybody 3 minutes. So Lindsay, if you would make sure that they get 3 minutes. Kyle, go ahead and explain to the people why you are the right choice for one of these vacancies in the Washington Elementary School District.
Well, thank you to Secular AZ again for having this discussion and bringing this forum together. I really appreciate hearing from Tamilia and T and being able to talk about issues that are really important to our schools and to our students. I believe I am a strong candidate for the Washington Elementary School District Governing Board because I'm a parent and I'm seeing firsthand what's happening in our schools, what's happening with our students, and are really seeing again firsthand, and would be a governing board member or candidate with skin in the game. My decisions and the decisions of the board will affect my child because they attend school in this district. I again reiterate that I'm a parent and not a politician. I am running for this seat because I have a passion for all of our kids, our public education system as a whole, and because I have grown up in the Arizona educational system from kindergarten to college at ASU. I also have that firsthand experience. I also believe with my background in being an entrepreneur and running tight budgets in my startups and business life, I can bring that expertise to our district, along with as being a real estate agent, not only knowing contract law, but knowing that strong schools build strong communities and attract people that want to come and live within those communities. And that helps everyone. That helps our students, our economy, our neighborhoods, and it helps keep us connected. I believe in my community in particular, we're missing that connection because our community is not getting together on the Little League field and not getting together and getting to know each other. We go to school and come home, pull in the garage and close the garage door. Schools and community schools can provide that community connection that can bring us together and show our community as a whole that we have more that connects us than tears us apart. And so I am running for Washington Elementary School District Governing Board because I believe in public education. I believe in the power of teachers. And like I said, I'm a parent and not a politician. And I'm coming to that with the passion of a parent with a student in our district.
Great. Thank you so much, Kyle. Same to you. T, closing statement. What makes you the best candidate for one of these open positions?
Well, I bring to the table my years of experience of being involved in the education in many different forums, understanding the finance, understanding that we can have great goals, but to accomplish them takes money to implement them and sustain them. A lot of people want to go out and get grants to do things, but then when the grants run out, how do we continue them? I believe, as I've said before, that the decisions made at the school level to meet their culture, we're so diverse. We have schools that have country clubs in the middle of them. We have some schools that the Catholic Refugee Center sends their students to 2 of our schools, having 60 different dialects to work on, and being able to meet all those needs. The answer to the big questions you talked about tonight about equity, to talk about what's going on in safe schools and supporting teachers. Those issues may be similar, but the answers come from the schools because they know their particular interests and their challenges. There's a big difference in governance and managing schools. And at the governing board level, we need to ensure that we're in compliance and meeting state law. It's an oath that we take every year when we're elected, and being able to meet those needs and balance that with meeting the needs of our communities, our families, and our students. To have an idea and to move forward because we're excited about it is a good thing, but you can't take away parents' rights on the other side of that, of what they believe. We have to incorporate everybody together. To do that, we need them at the table. A lot of our parents are busy working 2 jobs. It's very hard for them to be able to participate. So family engagement can look different for every parent. Is that making sure they're well fed, sleep really well, get their homework done, come to their activities, and that's what a parent is able to do because of their life situation. Fabulous. That's what we need. We have fought to have parents participate in decision-making groups within our school system for decades, and it's very, very hard to do. And it doesn't mean we stop. It means we keep going at it and we encourage it, but acknowledge that parent involvement looks different with every different family. And we support that. We support what they need and what they're going to do. So I'm hoping that with my facilitation skills and being able to bring people together for the discussion and have those difficult discussions, and ensuring that they're respectful for each other, we can continue to go and grow as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you so much, T. All right, same to you. Closing statement, Tamilia. Why are you the right choice for Washington Elementary School District?
I also want to thank y'all for holding this space for us as well. I think I am a great choice because I bring in a new perspective. I like to connect with our people. I like to empower our people and uplift our voices that are typically not heard at the table. I will also be reflective of our community. I am Black, I am Latina, I am queer, and I am disabled as well. And so offering those different perspectives, while I do not speak for everyone in those communities, I can definitely uplift and, like I said, provide a new perspective that I think is definitely needed on this board. I am here to learn. I do not know everything, and so I am also here to listen in the times when I do not have an answer, and even in the times where I think I know I have an answer. I think an important aspect of being a leader is not just uplifting yourself, but uplifting others and knowing when to step back, when you need to listen. I'm also not afraid to ask the questions that need to be asked, as I'm sure y'all heard tonight. I'm not afraid to provide that other side of what often is not heard in these spaces. And I will be a brave leader, I will be an empowering leader, and I will be an uplifting leader. And I will always hold close to the fact that I would not be able to be in this space without the community. So the power really is in our community's hand, and I'm here to be of service to our community. And so I think honing into that and knowing that that is what my goal is here, I think that's what would make me a great choice for this position.
Great, thank you so much. And I just want to say, first of all, I think that most of our members and people who are taking the time on a Wednesday night to pay attention to this forum right now, you know, they're really aware of what's going on in Arizona and all across our nation. And I just want to just give a big thank you to all 3 of you for stepping up, because these are volunteer positions. You know, I myself was on a school board 100 years ago. No, it wasn't really that long ago. And it was, for me, one of the most joyful experiences that I had. But it can also be a dirty, thankless job, and especially in these days. So for all 3 of you, I commend you for coming on today. and for, you know, feeling this passion for public education and for stepping up in these volunteer positions. It is commendable for all of you. And I think that the people in the Washington Elementary School District are very lucky to have such 3 strong candidates who are willing to show up and bare their souls and put themselves out there and walk in the heat. So thanks to each and every one of you. I think you're fantastic, and I look forward to seeing what you continue to do regardless the outcome. I again am here as a representative of Secular AZ, and our members are very passionate about the issues that we discussed tonight. We have some fantastic programming coming up, and this is, like I said, I think the 4th of our school board forums. We have had some outreach coming from the north part of our state as well as the south. So I'm hopeful that we will get some of these other non-Maricopa County school board candidates on. But in the meantime, thank you to Lindsay for sharing what we have coming up. We have some great programming, specifically on Tuesday, June 28th, which I guess is a week from yesterday. Heather Weaver, who is a senior staff attorney with ACLU program on the freedom of religion and belief, and she's going to come on and discuss the implications of the SCOTUS case, which is Kennedy versus Bremerton. That is the one where the football coach was praying and kind of forcing students to pray. So we're all kind of waiting anxiously to see what happens there. We saw the outcome that came, I believe it was yesterday, with Carver versus Macon, that basically allows for vouchers. So our Supreme Court cases are really important. And so to have somebody like Heather Weaver come on and talk about the implications of this case that's coming up is really important. We also have Friday, it's not listed right here, but Friday at 12 o'clock, we're going to have Dawn Penich Thacker. She used to be with Save Our Schools. She's currently a professor at ASU, as well as now a political consultant. She's going to be talking about the Carver versus Macon case that just came out of our Supreme Court and the implications that has for people in Arizona. And then if you go a little bit further down listed on the list, we have our 5th candidate forum for school board candidates with the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board candidates. So I really hope that all of you who care about what happens at the school board level, all the way to the top, you know, when you're voting for Mark Kelly or whichever candidate you decide to vote for at the top, I really hope that you go all the way down your ballot, because these decisions that are made at the local level affect each and every one of us every single day. We wouldn't be able to do this work without the support of our volunteers. So I also encourage you to become members. It's super easy and really probably too inexpensive. Maybe we should raise the price for this, but it's $30 a year. You'll get the inside scoop of what's happening. We'll show you how to use the request to speak system. And we have some pretty fantastic action alerts. I'm looking right now because I guess I'm a masochist, and I can see that right now, the Arizona House of Representatives is still in session on the floor, and there's some pretty big bills going. So this is where it's at, people, and we can't do this work. We can't be your voice for the separation of church and state if we don't have your support. So once again, thank you to the candidates. Thank you to everybody who showed up today. And thank you for all of your local political engagement. And for each and every one of our candidates, I wish you the best of luck. You really gave us a great conversation tonight, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So with that, have a good night, everybody, and stay safe out there and have a great week. Take care.